The Toyota Starlet Cross is a new stylish compact SUV. Off the bat, let's just address the elephant in the room. Even though it is new, you might feel like you've seen it before. You would be correct, as in essence, the Starlet Cross is a Toyota badged Suzuki Fronx, just like the relationship between the Starlet and the Buleno. The two vehicles are almost identical, except for some external styling cues. In this review, we will focus on the Starlet Cross, but I will give you my thoughts on which one is the better buy. Now, with that cleared up, let's jump straight into the review. There are two trim levels, the XS and the XR. We will cover some of the differences between them during this review, but if you want a detailed explanation of all the differences, we've already done a video on that and the link will be up at the top. Let's quickly run through the different variants that are available. On the XS or the XR, you can get either a manual or an automatic. The manual is a 5-speed, the automatic comes in a 4-speed with an overdrive feature which helps with fuel consumption. On the XS manual, this will cost you about 300,000 Rand. The XS automatic comes in at about 320,000 Rand. So there's about a 20,000 Rand premium to get the automatic over the manual. On the XR, the manual is about 340,000 and the automatic again is about 20,000 Rand more expensive. It comes in at 360,000 Rand. Later in this review, I'll give you my opinion on whether to go with the manual or the automatic. It doesn't matter if you're going manual or automatic or XS or XR, all of these are fitted with exactly the same engine. It's a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. Now what does naturally aspirated means? It means there's no turbo fitted to this engine. It produces 77 kilowatts and 138 newton meters of torque. Now you might think this seems a little bit low, but bear in mind that this vehicle weighs around a ton, so it is quite light, so the power to weight ratio is very good. After driving the vehicle, I can confirm there's no lack of power. Specifically for city driving, you'll find more than enough. This isn't a race car or sports car at the end of the day. It is more of a family vehicle, so you don't expect this to be racing from robot to robot. Top speed I'll mention, even though in today's economy it's not a big drawing factor to most vehicles. The top speed for the manual is 175 km per hour. On the automatic that drops to 170 km per hour. The much more important factor is the fuel consumption. The manual is indicated as 5.6 liters to the 100 and the automatic at 5.8 liters to the 100. The really impressive thing here is with the Suzuki Fronx, who's already been on the market for an extended period of time, we have some real world fuel consumption numbers and these are quite staggering, to be honest. You can get around 6 liters to the 100 on a combined cycle on the Fronx, which is very good. The only downside is the fuel tank is quite small. It's only 37 liters across all the variants, and I think it would have been much better if this was around 45, just to give you a little bit more range. Filling up the small tank, you can expect about 850 Rand per tank of fuel at today's prices, and this should give you a range of about 600 kilometers at a cost of 1.40 Rand per kilometer. The styling on the Starlet Cross is elegant yet sporty. The front grille is quite simple, yet I think it fits quite well into the vehicle. I'm not convinced about these fog lights down low, this sort of 3 cluster of lights. Doesn't really do it for me, but maybe something that we'll get used to over time. You get LED daytime running lights as standard across the XS and the XR variants. From the side you can really see the magic that the designers have done with the Starlet Cross. The slanted roofline gives it a sporty feel and it almost reminds you of a coupe. Gone are the days of the boxy SUVs that most manufacturers are doing nowadays. Both the XS and the XR comes with 16-inch alloy wheels. On the XS you get a black alloy and on the XR you get a machined or polished alloy which just looks a little bit more upmarket. The square black molding around the wheel arches fits quite well with the coupe-like design. It just breaks up some of the curves, which I think fits the vehicle. You get color-coded door handles and side mirrors on both the XS and the XR. On the XR you do get the option for a bi-tone paint color, and in this option the mirrors are black, but more on this later. The side skirts and the roof rails, these are more decorative than anything else, but on the XS these are black, on the XR these are silver. At the rear you have a striking light bar stretching the width of the entire vehicle. This is an awesome design feature. I wish more cars would do this. At night it looks absolutely stunning. You also get a rear spoiler and a rear window wiper, and then there's some silver decorative trim at the bottom, kind of like a diffuser would be on a sports car, but this is just decorative. Looking at the paint colors, if you're going with the XS, you've got 6 options to pick from. I'll put them up on the screen for you so you can see what they look like. On the XR you get the option to get a bitone paint specification. There's 3 options available here, either red, orange or silver. And with these options, the roof and the mirrors are in black, and the rest of the vehicle sort of below the window line. All of that will be in the color of your choice. Moving on to the interior. I must say the interior isn't as modern as the exterior, but I think it's well thought out and quite practical. The berry and black interior is standard across the range, and this could take some getting used to. I guess with most styling stuff, this is sort of personal preference. Cabin overall is quite spacious, it feels well put together. Yes, there's the fair share of hard plastics, but at this price point that is to be expected. Thankfully, Toyota has kept a lot of buttons around for the important things that you want to change while you're driving. Stuff like the climate control and the volume settings for the radio. All of these have normal buttons, none of this touchscreen fiddling stuff. In general, I feel that those are quite unsafe. On the XS, you get a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment unit. The XR ups this to a 9-inch system. This comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so that's lekker. But the downside is, if you're using Android Auto, you'll have to use a cable. For Apple CarPlay, this is wireless though. Across the range, a lever-wrapped steering wheel comes as standard, with controls for volume, cruise control and answering calls. So a good multifunction steering wheel, so you can keep your eyes on the road and don't need to look down when you're driving, especially when you're driving alone. The XR unit adds a heads-up display, which folds in and out of the dashboard and just has sort of the basic information on there in terms of how fast you're going and that sort of thing. You'll also get a manual handbrake as well as a central armrest. The good thing about this armrest, which I found quite surprising, is that it can move forwards and backwards, so it's easy to get that optimal position to rest your arm on. If you open it up, there's a very small storage pocket in there. Something like a cell phone or a wallet, I guess, can go in there. Not a lot of space for larger items though. On the XS, the interior door handles will be black. On the XR, these are silver. And in the glove box, there's no light for the XS, where on the XR that comes standard with a glove box light. I really wonder how much cost we're saving by removing a light from a glove box, but I guess every bit helps. The steering wheel adjustment on the XS is only up and down. On the XR, it adds telescopic adjustment, which means you can bring the steering wheel closer to you or move it further away, so you can easily get to that optimal driving position, especially for those longer trips. The other important thing to note, if you're looking to get into that optimal driving position, is that on the XS, there's no height adjustment for the driver's seat. On the XR, it adds height adjustment for the driver's seat. It is manual though, but at least you'll be able to lower the seat if you're a little bit taller or raise it up if you're a little bit shorter. The XS has a normal key for starting the car, where the XR has got push button start as well as keyless entry. The XR also adds a wireless charging pad behind the central cup holders, so you don't need to plug your phone into the USB port. I guess if you're using the Android Auto feature, you will be plugging your phone in any case and charging it via that way, so it's not a big deal if you've got an Android. Other basics inside include electric mirrors as well as electric windows all around, and I must say the seats are quite comfortable. The one thing I would point out, if you're a little bit bigger boned, they might be a little bit tight, especially sort of the sides, which raises up a little bit to keep you, I guess, centered in your seat. Those can be a bit tight, like I said, if you're a little bit bigger boned. Jumping into the rear seats, these offer plenty of space and there's more than enough leg room. Even if you're a little bit taller, I'm 1.9 meters and I generally don't have an issue with leg room back here, even with the driver's seat in my driving position. The problem here is headroom, and I think this is expected with the coupe-like styling. In general, I think if you're anything about 1.8 or above and you're sitting in the rear, you're going to struggle with headroom. If you're below that, you should be good though. The passengers at the back get 2 USB-C ports. 2 kids will be very happy to be able to plug in their devices, and you get an air vent, but there's no separate climate control settings, but I don't expect that at this price point. Also included is electric windows and ISOFIX on both of the outer seats, so if you have a young family you can add those car seats and have your children travel safely. The seats are split up 60-40 and can be folded down for extra luggage space if needed, or if you want to load longer objects in the boot. Overall, the rear seats is a pleasant place to be. The boot does not have a powered tailgate on the XS or the XR. Overall, you're looking at about 304 liters of boot space. This can be expanded by folding down the rear seats. There's a full spare wheel underneath. One thing to point out, it's got a steel rim. It does not have an alloy, but at least you have a full size spare, which on our roads, let's be honest, you really need that to ensure that you can get safely to where you need to go. The Starlet Cross comes with a whole host of driver support systems and safety features. As mentioned previously, you get cruise control as standard across the XS and the XR. There's parking sensors with a reverse camera on the XS. The XR adds a 360-degree camera on top of this, meaning that you will always be able to see the front and the sides as well, and not just the rear. You also get anti-locking brakes with EBD. There's brake assist, hill assist control, as well as vehicle stability control as standard across the XS and the XR. The big difference though is in terms of airbags. So the XS comes with 2 airbags as standard, where the XR adds 4 additional airbags on top of this, which brings the total up to 6. In my opinion, this is one of the big selling points of going with the XR instead of the XS. You don't want to be in an accident and afterwards think what could have been if you had those 4 additional airbags. If you are still watching the video at this point, chances are that you are enjoying the video. Please consider subscribing to support the channel, it really helps us a lot. So what is the Starlet Cross like on the road? First things, apologies, I did not have the mount with me to film myself while driving, so I don't have footage of this. What I can tell you though is that you have an elevated driving position compared to what you would have in the Starlet, just because of the increase in height of the vehicle overall. This gives you a more commanding presence on the road. It sort of ensues confidence while you are driving. You can easily spot things like potholes and curbs, which in a lower vehicle is a little bit more difficult. The Starlet Cross is quite planted on the road. It does not feel unsteady at all. The suspension feels a touch firmer compared to what you would find in the Starlet hatch, but I think this is due to it being a little bit of a larger vehicle. It's not that firm that it becomes uncomfortable, so I think they've landed at a well-balanced suspension overall. It tends to absorb any bumps in the roads quite well, and there's very little body roll when cornering. The engine has enough power to sort of get around. The only thing is, at highway speeds, when you want to overtake, you'll need to do a little bit of planning. It's not like you're going to put your foot down and all of a sudden you're going to be rocketing off. You just need to plan it a little bit, especially in the auto. In the manual, it's a lot easier for you to just gear back from 5 to 4, for instance, and then there's enough power to get by. I would say it depends on what you will be using the vehicle for. The automatic is great for city driving, but it can be very loud at highway speeds when you're sort of driving at 120 around there. It sort of has a big buzz around it, especially if you're trying to overtake. It sounds like someone is strangling the engine. I would go for the manual just for this reason, but if you will mostly be doing slower driving within the city, the automatic might suit you better, just so when you're stuck in traffic you don't need to fiddle through gears the entire time. The other benefit of the manual is that it's cheaper to buy up front. The automatic is about 20,000 Rand more expensive than the manual, and the manual is also a tad more fuel efficient compared to the automatic. In terms of warranty and service plan, the service plan for the Starlet Cross is 4 services, so this can either be 4 years or 60,000 kilometers. The service intervals is every 12 months or 15,000 kilometers, whichever comes first. And from a warranty perspective, you get a 3-year, 100,000 kilometer warranty. Looking at insurance cost, just must stress this is risk profile dependent. On my risk profile, the 1.5 XS manual, sort of the entry level variant, comes in at just under 900 Rand, and the range topping 1.5 XR automatic is about 1,280 Rand from an insurance point of view. So should you buy the Starlet Cross or the Fronx? The vehicles are basically the same except for some exterior styling, and these will sort of be personal preference. In my opinion, the Fronx is a better buy out of the two, but this is not for everyone. Why the Fronx, you might ask? Well, it's a little bit cheaper to buy up front. as well as the warranty is longer. You get a 5-year 200,000 kilometer warranty versus the 3-year 100,000 kilometer warranty offered by Toyota. The other benefit is that it's been on the market for a while, so you might be able to find a demo with quite low mileage at a reduced price. And it's quite a lot cheaper to insure. I was really shocked. So the 1.5 GLX Auto, which is a range-topping Fronx, from an insurance perspective, the premium I could get was 890 Rand. Now for comparison's sake, the range-topping Starlet Cross was 1,280 Rand. That's a 400 Rand difference, which is massive. That's half a tank of fuel a month. Why is the Fronx not the obvious choice for everyone? Well, I think the big thing here is where do you live and where do you drive most of the time. The dealership footprint in the rural areas for Suzuki is quite limited. To give you an idea, Suzuki has around 100 dealerships in the country, where Toyota has just over 200 dealerships. That's basically double. So if you live in a rural area, or you will use the Starlet Cross for traveling through rural areas quite often, when you run into trouble, a dealership is just closer by, which can help you out and get you moving again. The other big consideration is that you don't want to drive 200 kilometers to get to a Suzuki dealership to do your yearly services, or when you reach that 15,000 kilometers if you just have a Toyota around the corner. The other thing, I guess, it's just brand preference. Some people might just prefer to drive a Toyota, might give them street cred. For me personally, I don't think it's a big thing. I'm more of a practical kind of guy, value for money and all that, and that's why I would go for the Suzuki. And that brings us to the end of the video for today. Let me know in the comments if you would pick the Starlet Cross as your next vehicle. How do you weigh up the decision between the Starlet Cross and the Suzuki Fronx? Also curious if you think that the XR offers enough extra goodies to justify that 40,000 Rand premium.